On to level 14. Alright, here we're given all the sides and we're asked to find one of the angles in a non-right angle triangle. My two-finger gesture and rotating. And then I can resize using the pinch gesture, like that. Alright, so I'm just going to label these. And so the opposite side is my side A, lowercase a. And so these are going to be our sides B and C, and it doesn't matter which is which. So I'm going to call that side B, and this one side C. And that makes up here my angle B, and down here my angle C. But I'm not going to label them because they don't have measurements on them. Okay, so it's not necessary. All right. I can't use my sine law, all right, because sine of A over, or A, side A over sine of A is equal to side B over sine of B. Oh, but we don't have angle B, so it's not going to work. Or it's equal to side C over sine of angle C, but we don't have angle C. So the sine law will not work. We're going to have to use our cosine law. Okay, notice we pretty much have everything for the cosine law. Let's just write it out and see. All right, so A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared. All right, it starts off like Pythagorean theorem, but because it's not a right angle triangle, we have to take away 2BC times the cosine of angle A. Okay, and notice we have everything but angle A. We have our A side, our B side, and our C side. So I'm going to fill in what I know. So the A is 15.9. So A squared is 15.9 squared is equal to B squared, 18.5 squared, plus our C squared, which is 22.14 squared. Take away 2 times B, which is 18.5, times our C, which is 22.14, times the cosine of A. And our angle A is our unknown. Now in this case, I'm just going to use theta. Okay, so we're trying to find theta. All right, so we have a little bit of work to do. So I'm going to work out what we have so far. So using algebra, I'm going to isolate the cosine of A. So I'm going to subtract the 18.5 and subtract the 22.14 from both sides, and I'm left with 15.9 squared take away 18.5 squared take away 22.14 squared is equal to negative 2 times 18.5 times 22.14 times the cosine of theta. All right, so I want to get my cosine of theta alone, and it's being multiplied by 2 times 18 point, by negative 2 times 18.5 times 22.14. So I'm going to divide both sides by that, by the negative 2 times 18.5 times the 22.14. And that gives us 15.9 squared, take away 18.5 squared, take away 22.14 squared, all divided by negative 2 times 18.5 times 22.14 and that is equal to the cosine of A. All right, let's work all that out just because I'm getting tired of writing all those numbers. So handy dandy calculator time. And 15.9 squared. Take away 18.5 squared. Take away 22.14 squared. Okay, and equals. So we're going to divide that whole thing by, so divided by. I'm going to put this in brackets. So open bracket. So 2, negative 2, so 2 and then the negative, times 18.5 times the 22.14, close the bracket, equals. So that gives me, I'm just going to keep this number in my calculator, so 0.7076, rounding to 4 decimal places, is equal to the cosine of A. To get A alone, I'm going to take the inverse cosine of both sides. Okay, so I'm going to do the inverse cosine of the left-hand side is equal to the inverse cosine of the right-hand side. But on the right-hand side, the inverse cosine is going to react with the cosine, and we're going to be left with A. All right, so we're going to end up with the inverse cosine of 0.7076 is equal to A. So handy dandy calculator time. So I'm just going to take the inverse cosine of this number. And that gives me 44.963 degrees. And let's ask ourselves if this makes sense. Here's our angle A. Does that look to be about 45 degrees? Sure it does. All right, so into the app, 44.963 degrees, and we click on the check button to check to see if we're right. Yay!